A billionaire walked into a charity gala and saw a little girl in a wheelchair sitting alone in the corner, invisible to everyone in the room. Every single family that had ever visited her orphanage had looked past her, dismissed her with polite excuses, treated her like she was a problem needing solving rather than a child needing love. But when this wealthy, broken man decided to adopt her anyway, what she whispered to him on the day he brought her home forever didn't just break his heart wide open. It shattered every wall of grief and fear he'd built around himself over 3 years of hiding from life, and showed him what love, family, sacrifice, and true worth really meant in a world obsessed with perfection. This is Marcus Chen's story, and the profound truth about an 8-year-old girl named Lily Thompson who taught a billionaire drowning in emptiness how to live again, how to hope again, how to believe that broken people can still build something genuinely beautiful together. A story that begins not with hope or happiness or easy answers, but with devastating loss, crushing loneliness, paralyzing fear, and a man who thought he'd lost everything worth living for the day his wife died in his arms. Before we start this story, leave a comment below and tell us what city you're watching from. We love seeing our Deep Stories community growing all around the world. And at the end of this story, don't forget to rate it from 0 to 10. Let us know what you think. If you believe that every child deserves love regardless of their physical abilities, that family isn't defined by blood but by choice and commitment and showing up every single day, that the people society overlooks are sometimes the most extraordinary souls we'll ever have the privilege to know, and that broken people can heal each other in ways that whole people never could, then hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications right now. This is Marcus Chen's journey, a story about a billionaire who adopted a girl in a wheelchair and what she whispered to him that changed his life forever. But to understand how we got to that moment, to truly grasp the magnitude of what these two broken souls meant to each other, we need to go back to the beginning. We need to go back to the day Marcus Chen lost everything that mattered, and the day a little girl named Lily was about to lose the last shred of hope she had left. Let's begin. Marcus Chen stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his corner office on the 43rd floor of Chen Industries Tower, looking down at the city spread out below him like a circuit board of lights and movement and life, and felt absolutely nothing. At 45 years old, Marcus was worth $4.2 billion. He was the founder and CEO of Chen Industries, a technology conglomerate that had revolutionized cloud computing infrastructure and now employed 70,000 people across 3 continents. His company's software ran critical systems for governments, hospitals, universities, and Fortune 500 companies worldwide. His name appeared regularly in Forbes, in Bloomberg, in Wall Street Journal articles about immigrant success stories and the American dream achieved through brilliance and determination. His parents had emigrated from Taiwan with $800 and dreams bigger than their fear. His father had worked as a janitor while going to community college at night. His mother had cleaned houses to make ends meet. They'd lived in a 1-bedroom apartment where gunshots were more common than birdsong. Marcus had been their miracle, the son who got straight A's, who won scholarships, who went to MIT and started a company that would eventually change the world. He'd made them millionaires before they retired. They died within 6 months of each other 5 years ago. But that loss was nothing compared to losing Sarah. Sarah Mitchell had walked into his life during his 2nd year at MIT like sunshine breaking through clouds. She'd been an English major, brilliant and passionate about literature and social justice. She saw past his success to the scared kid underneath who worked himself to exhaustion. She'd loved him anyway. They'd gotten married 12 years ago in a small ceremony in her parents' backyard. For 12 years, they'd tried to have children. Month after month, year after year, the pregnancy tests came back negative. They'd tried fertility treatments, IVF, spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. They'd gotten pregnant twice. Twice they'd lost those pregnancies, small deaths that felt like losing actual children. After the 2nd miscarriage, Sarah had cried for a week straight. "I feel like a failure," she'd whispered. Like my body is broken and worthless. Marcus had made a decision then. We stopped trying to force this. We can adopt. Biology doesn't make a family. Love does. Let's choose a different path. Sarah had looked at him with such hope. You'd really be okay with that? Adopting? Sarah, adopted children aren't second choice. They're children who need families, and we're people who want to be parents. That's choosing love over biology. Let's do it. They'd started the adoption process 8 months before Sarah died, had filled out endless forms, gone through home studies, attended classes on adoption trauma. Sarah had been so excited, preparing a nursery, buying children's books, making lists of names. And then, on a Tuesday afternoon in October, a drunk driver ran a red light and hit Sarah's car, and Marcus's entire world ended. He'd gotten the call while in a board meeting, had raced to the hospital praying to a God he didn't believe in. She'd lived for 6 hours, long enough for Marcus to hold her hand, to tell her he loved her. Her last words haunted him. Promise me you'll still adopt. Promise you'll still be a dad. Don't let this break you so badly you forget how to live. Marcus had promised. Then Sarah died, and Marcus shattered into pieces he wasn't sure would ever come back together. The funeral was a blur. The sympathy cards, the casseroles, the people who said idiotic things like, she's in a better place, as if 12 years with Sarah could ever be enough. Marcus threw himself into work with manic intensity. 18-hour days, sleeping in his office because going home to their house was unbearable. His board of directors worried. His friends tried to intervene. His therapist told him he was showing classic signs of complicated grief. But Marcus didn't want to process. Didn't want to feel. Feeling meant acknowledging that Sarah was gone, that he'd never hear her laugh again or see her eyes light up when she talked about books. Feeling meant pain so intense it was physically crippling. So he worked and avoided and existed but didn't live. 3 years passed like this. 3 years of Marcus the CEO, the billionaire, the success story, the man who'd achieved everything and felt nothing inside except emptiness. And then one day, his assistant Jennifer walked into his office with tears in her eyes and an invitation in her hand. Marcus, the Children's Hope Foundation is having their annual gala. They want you to give the keynote speech. They've named their adoption scholarship fund after Sarah, the Sarah Chen Memorial Fund. They've helped place over 200 kids in the last 3 years because of her work. Marcus stared at the invitation like it was a grenade. The Children's Hope Foundation. The organization Sarah had poured her heart into, the dream they'd shared of adopting a child. No, Marcus said flatly. I can't. Tell them I'll donate whatever they need, but I can't stand up there and talk about Sarah. Jennifer sat down across from him. Sarah made you promise not to let losing her break you so badly you forgot how to live. For 3 years, you've been breaking that promise every single day. Maybe it's time to try. Marcus looked at the invitation for a long time, thought about Sarah's face when they'd talked about adoption, the hope in her eyes. Okay, he finally said. I'll do it. I'll go to the gala. The night of the gala. Marcus stood in front of his closet, looking at the tuxedo Sarah had picked out for him years ago, wondering what the hell he was doing. He could still back out. But he'd promised Jennifer. More importantly, he'd promised Sarah. The gala was at the Grand Plaza Hotel, all glittering chandeliers and expensive evening wear. Marcus hated these things. The forced small talk, the networking disguised as philanthropy, the way people looked at him with pity. He arrived late, hoping to minimize interaction. Jennifer had prepared his speech about Sarah's work with the foundation, about the importance of adoption and foster care reform. The words felt hollow in his mouth. Margaret Reynolds, the foundation's director who'd known Sarah well, met him at the entrance. Marcus, thank you for coming. I know this isn't easy, but your presence tonight means everything. She led him through the ballroom to a side room, and Marcus's breath caught. There were children there, maybe 20 of them, from foster homes and group homes, children waiting to be adopted, waiting for families. Sarah had always insisted they be present at these galas, had argued that the kids deserved to be seen, to be valued. Marcus spent 30 minutes meeting them. A 10-year-old boy named James who wanted to be an astronaut, a teenage girl named Maya who dreamed of becoming a doctor, twin sisters who just wanted to stay together when they got adopted. Every child was a reminder of what he'd lost, of the family he and Sarah would never have. And then Marcus saw her, a little girl sitting apart from the others, near a window. She was in a wheelchair, her small body almost swallowed by it. She wore a navy blue dress that had been washed too many times. The color faded. Her dark curly hair fell past her shoulders. She wasn't participating in the excited chatter of the other children. She just sat there, looking out at the city, her expression carefully neutral, like someone who'd learned that hoping hurt too much. Marcus found himself walking toward her, drawn by something he couldn't name. "Hi," he said softly, kneeling beside her wheelchair. "I'm Marcus." The little girl turned to look at him with eyes that were far too old for her face. Brown eyes that had seen too much. "I know who you are," she said quietly. "You're the billionaire whose wife died. Mrs. Reynolds told us. She said you give lots of money to help kids like us." The blunt assessment hit Marcus hard. Kids like us. Kids who nobody wants. This child had already internalized that message. "Your wife wanted to adopt kids," the girl continued, "but she died before you could. Now you just give money instead of a home. I guess money is easier than love. Money doesn't break your heart when things go wrong." The brutal truth of it left Marcus speechless. This child saw right through him. "You're absolutely right," Marcus finally said. "Money is easier than love. Safer. Less risky. I can write a check and walk away and never worry about losing anyone again. Love is terrifying because people you love can be taken from you. So yes, I've been choosing money over love because I'm a coward." The girl studied him. "At least you admit it? Most grown-ups lie. They pretend they care, but really they just want to feel good about themselves without actually risking anything real." "What's your name?" Marcus asked. Lily Thompson. "I'm 8 years old. I've been in the foster system for 5 years. 7 different placements. 4 foster homes sent me back. 3 group homes. I've been to 4 adoption events where families look at us like puppies at a shelter and then choose the cute, easy kids. Nobody chooses the girl in the wheelchair. We're too expensive, too complicated, too much work." Marcus felt his chest tighten. "How long have you been in a wheelchair? Since the accident that killed my parents? I was 3. We were driving to my grandma's house for Thanksgiving. A truck ran a red light and hit us. My mom and dad died at the scene. I was in the hospital for 4 months. The doctors said I'd never walk again. Paralyzed from the waist down. Forever." Marcus felt tears burning in his eyes. "I'm so sorry, Lily. That's not fair. None of that is fair. Fair doesn't matter," Lily said with weary wisdom. "What matters is what is. And what is that I'm a foster kid in a wheelchair with no family, medical needs that cost money, and a future that probably includes aging out of the system at 18 with nobody. Mrs. Patterson tries to be hopeful, but I'm 8. I'm smart enough to know people don't want broken kids." "Lily," Marcus said carefully, "I want to tell you something. Every person in the world is broken in some way. Your legs don't work the way most people's do. My heart doesn't work the way it did before Sarah died. The lie we've both been told is that being broken makes us unlovable. But that's garbage. Broken people often have more capacity for love, more understanding, more courage than people who've never been shattered. Your wheelchair doesn't define you any more than grief defines me." Lily stared at him, tears forming. "You don't know me. You're right. I don't know you yet. But I'd like to. Would you tell me about yourself? Not about the wheelchair or foster system, but about you. What do you love? What makes you laugh? What do you dream about?" Lily looked at him for a long moment, trying to decide whether to trust. Then slowly, I love to read. Books are the only place where I can be anyone. Go anywhere. Nobody cares if you're in a wheelchair in books. I love stories about magic and kids who saved the world, even though everyone underestimated them. I love drawing, too. Mrs. Patterson says I'm really good. I draw the places I read about, the characters I imagine. It makes them feel more real. Marcus listened, truly listened, and felt something dead inside begin to stir. What else do you love? I love art. Making things beautiful even though I can't do a lot of physical things other kids can. It makes me feel powerful, like I can create something from nothing. What do you dream about, Lily? If you could have anything in the world, what would it be? Lily looked down at her hands. I dream about having a family, a real one. Not foster parents who get tired of my medical appointments and send me back. A real family. A mom or dad who choose me on purpose, who don't see the wheelchair as a problem but just as a thing I use, who love me even when I'm difficult, who stay when things are hard, who make me feel like I belong somewhere. The raw longing in her voice shattered Marcus's defenses. He thought about Sarah, about the family they'd wanted, about this little girl who understood grief and loneliness. Lily, Marcus said, his heart pounding. What if I told you I'm considering adoption? That Sarah and I had started the process before she died? What if I asked if I could visit you tomorrow so we could get to know each other better? Would you be open to that? Lily's mouth fell open in shock. You're serious? You actually want to meet me again? Even though I'm in a wheelchair? Even though every other family changed their minds? I'm completely serious. Lily, I don't know if I'll be a good father, but I know this. When I look at you, I see someone brave enough to keep hoping despite disappointment, someone honest enough to call out my cowardice. Those are things that matter, not whether you can walk. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., I'll be at Riverside Group Home. That's a promise. Every time adults say they'll come back, they don't. How do I know you're different? Marcus pulled out his phone. See? Tomorrow, 10 a.m., Lily Thompson. I'm setting 3 reminders. I'm telling Mrs. Reynolds. I'm giving you my number. Everything I can to prove this is real. I will be there. Lily launched herself into his arms, sobbing, years of loneliness pouring out. Marcus held her tight, his own tears falling, feeling his frozen heart begin to thaw. 20 minutes later, Margaret found them. Marcus, it's time for your speech. Can I change it? Talk about something more personal? Of course. Say whatever you need to say. Marcus stood at the podium with Lily in the front row. My name is Marcus Chen. 3 years ago, my wife Sarah was killed by a drunk driver. We were in the process of adopting when she died. I stopped everything, locked myself in work and grief, terrified of loving again. I donated millions because it felt safe. I wrote checks instead of being brave. He looked at Lily. Tonight I met Lily Thompson. She's 8, been in foster care 5 years, in a wheelchair because an accident killed her parents. She told me money is easier than love. She was right. The children waiting for families don't need our money as much as they need our courage. They need adults brave enough to look past disabilities and trauma to see the extraordinary souls underneath. They need love and commitment, not charity. His voice strengthened. Sarah believed every child deserves a family. That adoption isn't rescue, but recognition of children's value. That family is built through choice. I failed those beliefs for 3 years. But meeting Lily, I realized I owe Sarah's memory to actually live these values, not just fund them from a distance. He looked directly at Lily. I'm resuming the adoption process, and I'm hoping Lily Thompson will take a chance on a scared, broken man trying to be her father, if she'll have me. The room erupted in applause. Lily sat crying, smiling, looking at Marcus with hope and terror. After the speech, Marcus knelt by her wheelchair. Did you mean it? All of it? Every word. This will be hard. I've never been a parent. There will be difficult days. You'll test me. But I promise, I will show up. I won't give up. I will be your father. Does that sound like something you'd try? Lily took his hand. If you change your mind, it'll destroy me. This feels like my last chance at family. Please don't promise unless you're certain. I can't promise perfection, but I promise when I commit, I don't walk away. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. One kept promise at a time until you believe. Okay, tomorrow. I'll be waiting. That night, Marcus sat in the nursery Sarah had painted for the first time in 3 years. Talked to her picture. I met her. The child we were meant to find. Her name's Lily. She's amazing. Brave and honest and lonely like me. I think we can help each other heal. Thank you for making me promise to keep living. I'm finally keeping it. The next morning, Marcus arrived at Riverside at 9:45. Mrs. Patterson met him with tears. Lily's been watching since 8:30. Didn't eat breakfast. She's terrified you won't come. She warned, Lily has attachment issues. We'll test you, push you away. If you're not prepared, walk away now. One more abandonment might break her. I'm not walking away. I'm committed. You have my word. Lily sat by the window, tense. When Marcus walked in early, her eyes went wide. You came. You're early. You really came. Marcus knelt beside her. I keep my promises, always. I brought you things because I was thinking about you. He pulled out a beautiful secret garden. You love reading. This is about a lonely girl who finds a forgotten garden and brings it back to life and finds herself. I thought you'd relate. Lily took it with trembling hands. This is the most beautiful book I've ever owned. Nobody ever gave me something this perfect. There's more. Professional art supplies. For drawing the worlds you imagine. Lily cried, clutching the gifts. Why are you being so nice? Because I care about you. Can I hug you? Lily threw herself into his arms. They spent 6 hours together. Lily showed her artwork. Drawings of families she dreamed of. Read her new book aloud. Told him about failed placements. Her parents. Feeling unwanted. Marcus told her about Sarah, his parents, his fear of being a father. By dinner, they'd built real connection. I don't want you to leave, Lily said. What if you don't come back? I'm coming tomorrow. And every day after, you can't get rid of me. For 3 months, Marcus kept that promise. Every single day at Riverside, sometimes an hour, sometimes 8. Attended physical therapy, met with social workers, hired attorneys. Modified his house, ramps, widened doors, converted the nursery to a purple bedroom, bought a wheelchair van, read everything about parenting kids with disabilities, most importantly, showed up every single day. There were hard days. Days when Lily tested him, said cruel things. Days with panic attacks. Marcus stayed through all of it. When she pushed away, he came back. When she said she hated him, he said he loved her anyway. Slowly, Lily began believing. 6 months after the gala, adoption was finalized. Judge Martinez smiled. Marcus Chen, you are now Lily's father. Lily Thompson Chen, you are his daughter. You are family. Congratulations. On the courthouse steps, Marcus knelt. You're my daughter now, forever. Promise? Always? Let's go home. Lily's homecoming was perfect. Purple room, bookshelves, art studio, window seat, completely accessible house, and a golden retriever puppy. You got me a dog? Lily cried. Her name is Sunshine. She's yours. Lily looked around. This is really my home. You won't send me back when I'm difficult? Marcus knelt. You'll be difficult sometimes. All kids are. None of that will make me send you back. This is permanent. Forever. You're my daughter. Lily launched into his arms. I love you, Daddy. I've been waiting my whole life for you to find me. I was so scared nobody ever would. But you did. You found me and you didn't leave, and now I have a home and I love you so much. Marcus held his daughter, heart thawing completely. "I love you too, sweetheart. You're the bravest person I've met. I'm so lucky to be your dad." The first months were challenging. Nightmares almost nightly. Lily waking, screaming that Marcus had changed his mind, that the social worker was coming. He'd hold her at 2 a.m. "You're staying. This is your home. I'm your dad. Nothing changes that." Lily tested constantly, broke rules deliberately, screamed she hated him. Marcus stayed calm. "You can hate me today, but I'll be here tomorrow. We're stuck together. That's family." Slowly, Lily believed. Trusted his love wasn't conditional. Marcus cut work hours to be home for dinner, learned to braid hair from YouTube, became expert on accessible playgrounds, discovered Lily was genuinely gifted artistically, converted a room into a studio, watched her bloom, gaining confidence, smiling more, believing in her worth. On Lily's 9th birthday, 1 year after adoption, Marcus threw the party she'd never had. Friends, decorations, homemade cake. As Lily blew out candles surrounded by love, she caught Marcus's eye and mouthed, "Thank you." He mouthed back, "I love you." Everything made sense. All the grief had led here, to this child who needed him as much as he needed her. That night, Marcus talked to Sarah's photo. "We have a daughter. Her name's Lily. She's amazing. I wish you'd met her. She's healed me, taught me to be brave, shown me broken people can build beautiful lives. Thank you for making me promise to keep living. I'm keeping it. Thank you for starting this dream. I'm finishing what we began." Years passed. Lily became a remarkable woman who never let her wheelchair limit her. Accomplished artist with gallery shows by 16. Fierce advocate for kids with disabilities, speaking at schools and conferences, graduated valedictorian with full scholarship to art school. Fell in love with kind David, who loved every part of her, wheelchair and all. On Lily's 21st birthday, home from Rhode Island School of Design, they sat on the porch after dinner. "Dad, can I tell you something?" "Always, sweetheart." "Remember what I said the first day home? Every word. You'd been waiting for me. You loved me. We were broken together." Lily nodded, tears forming. "I meant it, but there's more now." "What?" "You saved my life, Dad. Not just by adopting me. By showing me the wheelchair doesn't mean I'm worthless or broken in ways that matter. That needing help doesn't make me a burden. That it's just a tool, not a definition. You took a scared girl who believed nobody would want her and loved her into a woman who knows her worth, believes in her value, has confidence to dream big and courage to pursue them. You gave me safety to fail and support to try. You taught me family isn't about perfection but showing up when it's hard. You gave me permission to be fully myself, messy, complicated, disabled, wonderful. You changed everything. You gave me not just a home but a life worth living. I matter. I'm worthy. My existence has value beyond what I can do physically." Marcus pulled her close. "Lily, you gave me a life too. After Mom died, I existed, not lived. You taught me how to live again, how to love again, how to be brave enough to open my heart knowing I might get hurt. You showed me the risk of love is worth it. That connection matters more than safety. We saved each other, sweetheart. That's what families do. That's what love does. It transforms us into better versions of ourselves." Years later, Lily married David in a garden ceremony, Marcus walking her down the aisle in her decorated wheelchair, both crying happy tears. When she had daughter Sarah, Marcus held his granddaughter and told stories about both women she was named for, the wife he'd lost who believed in adoption and family, and the daughter he'd found who taught him to live again. When Lily's art career took off internationally, Marcus attended every opening, the proud father who'd always known she was destined for extraordinary things. When Marcus got older, health declining, Lily cared for him with fierce love, making sure he knew he wasn't a burden, that needing help didn't diminish his worth, that family meant showing up through everything. One evening near the end, they sat in the garden. Marcus was weak, Time short, but mind clear. Remember when you told me money was easier than love? Lily smiled through tears. I was such a cynical kid. But I was right. Absolutely. Money is easier. But love is what makes life worth living. Love saved us. Love is what mattered. I love you, Dad. Everything good exists because you saw worth in a scared 8-year-old everyone overlooked. Because you kept showing up. Because you loved me into believing I deserved love. Thank you for being my father. Thank you for teaching me what family means. Thank you for everything. Marcus squeezed her hand weakly. I love you, Lily. You are my greatest pride, deepest joy, most important legacy. Not the company or money. You, the family we built, the love we chose. That's what mattered. That's what always mattered. They sat together, story full circle. Marcus died that night holding Lily's hand, knowing he'd lived a life that truly mattered, loved a child who desperately needed him, built family from loss and courage, kept his promise to Sarah. He'd chosen love over safety, family over fear, and it made all the difference. This is their story, about a billionaire who adopted a girl in a wheelchair nobody wanted, about what she whispered that changed everything, about broken people healing each other, about courage to choose family when it's scary, about worth having nothing to do with physical ability and everything to do with heart, about families built on choice being as real and powerful as families built on biology. If you believe every child deserves love regardless of circumstances, that family is built through daily choice and commitment, that disability doesn't define human worth, that broken people create beautiful, meaningful lives together, that showing up matters more than being perfect, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment. Have you been overlooked because of something beyond your control? Found family in unexpected places? Taken a chance on love when terrified of being hurt? Rate this from 0 to 10. Thank you for being part of Deep Stories. Until next time, remember, people society overlooks are often the most extraordinary souls we'll ever know, and sometimes the greatest courage is choosing to love when you're terrified of being hurt again. But that courage, that choice, that love, that's what makes us human. That makes life worth living. That saves us all. Over the next 3 months, Marcus Chen discovered what it meant to truly show up for someone. Not just physically arriving at Riverside Group home every single day at exactly 10 a.m., but emotionally showing up, being present, being vulnerable, being willing to let this 8-year-old girl see him not as the billionaire CEO, but as a grieving man trying to figure out how to be a father. The first week was tentative. Marcus would arrive with small gifts, a new book, art supplies, sometimes just a snack he thought Lily might like. They'd sit together in the common room while Lily read aloud from The Secret Garden, her voice gaining confidence as she realized Marcus was actually listening, actually engaged, not just waiting for his turn to talk or checking his phone like so many adults did. Mrs. Patterson watched these visits with cautious hope. Having seen too many well-meaning adults make big promises and then slowly fade away as the reality of commitment set in. By week 2, Lily started opening up about her life in ways she hadn't that first night. She told Marcus about her first foster family, the Hendersons, who'd seemed so nice at first. They have 2 biological kids, Lily explained, her small hands folded in her lap. They thought adopting me would be a good way to teach their kids about charity and helping people less fortunate. But they didn't realize how much work I'd be. The medical appointments, the physical therapy, the special equipment. After 6 months, Mrs. Henderson sat me down and said they'd made a mistake, that their family wasn't equipped to handle someone with my needs. She cried when she said it, like that made it better. Like her tears somehow meant I should feel sorry for her instead of angry that she was sending me back. Marcus listened without interrupting, his chest tight with fury at adults who treated children like returnable merchandise, and with heartbreak for this little girl who'd learned so young that love often came with conditions. The third foster family was the Johnsons, Lily continued during another visit. They were older, in their 50s. They really tried. But their house wasn't accessible. There were stairs everywhere. They had to carry me up and down all the time, and I could tell it was wearing them out. After 8 months, Mr. Johnson threw out his back carrying me upstairs one night, and they decided it was too much. They told the social worker they felt terrible, but they were worried about their own health. I understood, I guess, but it still hurt, knowing I was too much trouble even for people who really wanted to make it work. Marcus absorbed these stories, each one adding weight to his determination. When he met with the social worker assigned to his case, Mrs. Chen, no relation, he asked pointed questions about making his house not just accessible, but genuinely welcoming for Lily. What adaptive equipment does she need? What modifications would make her feel independent rather than dependent? What am I not thinking of that I should be? Mrs. Chen had been handling adoptions for 15 years and had seen every kind of prospective parent. She recognized immediately that Marcus wasn't asking these questions to check boxes on a form. He was asking because he genuinely wanted to understand how to make Lily's life better. The home study process was intensive. Social workers came to Marcus's house, evaluated every room, asked intrusive questions about his childhood, his marriage, his grief, his motivations for wanting to adopt. Marcus, who normally controlled every interaction in his business life, had to surrender control completely and let strangers judge whether he was worthy of becoming Lily's father. It was humbling in ways he hadn't expected. During one particularly difficult session, a social worker named Robert asked him directly, "Mr. Chen, what happens when the novelty wears off? When Lily has a meltdown in public, or when managing her medical care starts interfering with your work schedule, or when you realize that being a single father to a child with significant needs is much harder than you thought? Will you stick with it, or will you be the fourth family to send her back?" Marcus had met Robert's eyes steadily. "I lost my wife 3 years ago. For 3 years, I've been going through the motions of living without actually being alive. Every single day has been hard. Every morning I wake up and Sarah isn't there. Every night I come home to an empty house. I've gotten very good at doing hard things, Robert. The question isn't whether I'll stick with it when it's hard. The question is whether I can actually be the father Lily deserves. And I don't know the answer to that yet. But I promise you this. I will show up. When she has meltdowns, I'll be there. When medical appointments interfere with work, I'll reschedule work. When it's harder than I thought, I'll ask for help. What I won't do is give up on her. I've seen what giving up does to a child. I won't be the person who teaches Lily that love is conditional one more time." Robert had made notes in his file, his expression unreadable. Then he'd said quietly, "That's the best answer anyone's ever given me to that question. Keep showing up, Mr. Chen. That's all any of us can do." As Marcus continued his daily visits to Riverside Group Home, he started to see patterns in Lily's behavior. Good days when she was chatty and engaged, sharing stories about her day or showing him new drawings. Bad days when she was withdrawn and quiet, clearly waiting for him to announce this was all a mistake and he wouldn't be coming back. Marcus learned to recognize the signs of an impending panic attack, the way Lily's breathing would get shallow, how her hands would start to shake, the terror that would flood her eyes when something triggered a memory or a fear. The first time it happened, Marcus had no idea what to do. They'd been sitting together reading when Lily suddenly gasped and clutched at her chest, hyperventilating. Mrs. Patterson had rushed over, familiar with this pattern, and gently coached Lily through breathing exercises while Marcus watched helplessly, his own heart pounding with the desire to fix this and the knowledge that he couldn't. Afterward, when Lily had calmed down and been taken to rest, Mrs. Patterson pulled Marcus aside. "She has attachment trauma," she explained quietly. "Every time someone important leaves her life, her parents dying, foster families sending her back, it reinforces the belief that everyone abandons her eventually. So she's constantly waiting for you to leave too. When you're consistently present, It actually makes her more anxious sometimes, because she starts to hope, and hope is terrifying when you've been disappointed as many times as she has. The panic attacks often happen when she's feeling particularly hopeful because hope makes her vulnerable. "What can I do?" Marcus had asked, feeling helpless. "Keep showing up, Mrs. Patterson said simply. That's the only thing that eventually convinces traumatized kids that someone's really staying. Not words, not promises, just consistent presence over time. Show up when it's convenient and when it's not. Show up when she's sweet and when she's testing you. Show up when you're tired or busy or would rather be anywhere else. That's what builds trust." So Marcus showed up. On days when Chen Industries had critical board meetings, he showed up. On days when he was exhausted from work and just wanted to collapse, he showed up. On the day Lily screamed at him that she hated him and he should just leave like everyone else, he showed up the next day and the day after that. And slowly, incrementally, Lily began to believe that maybe this time was different. Maybe this man with sad eyes and gentle voice really meant what he said. Maybe she could actually trust him not to disappear. During one visit in the second month, Lily asked him a question that broke his heart. "Why me? There are lots of kids here who don't have wheelchairs, who don't need special equipment, who would be way easier to adopt. Why would you choose me when you could have a normal kid?" Marcus had taken a long moment to formulate his answer because he knew how important it was to get this right. "Lily," he'd said carefully, "there's no such thing as a normal kid. Every child is unique, complicated, amazing in different ways. You're right that adopting you means making accommodations that I wouldn't have to make for a child who isn't in a wheelchair. But you know what else it means? It means I get you. Your brilliant mind, your incredible art, your ability to see through people's nonsense, your courage to keep hoping even when you've been hurt. Those things aren't separate from the wheelchair. They're part of who you've become because of everything you've been through. And I don't want a theoretical easier child. I want you, specifically you, with your wheelchair and your trauma and your gifts and your challenges. All of it. That's who I'm choosing." Lily had looked at him with wonder and disbelief, warring in her expression. "But why?" Marcus smiled. "Because when I look at you, I see someone extraordinary who deserves to be chosen. And because Sarah would have loved you, she would have seen exactly what I see. A remarkable kid who's been overlooked by people who couldn't see past surface differences. And I promised her I'd keep choosing love over fear. Choosing you is me keeping that promise." The adoption paperwork moved forward with bureaucratic slowness that frustrated Marcus but was probably good for Lily, giving her time to gradually believe this was really happening. There were mandatory parenting classes where Marcus sat with couples in their 20s and 30s, often the only single parent in the room, definitely the only billionaire CEO, learning about attachment theory and trauma-informed parenting and how to handle behavioral challenges. There were medical evaluations and psychological assessments. There were meetings with Lily's physical therapist to understand her care needs and future outlook. Through it all, Marcus threw himself into learning everything he could. He read books about parenting children with disabilities, joined online support groups for adoptive parents, consulted with specialists about accessible home design. His house underwent a complete transformation. Ramps installed at every entrance, doorways widened throughout, bathrooms modified with roll-in showers and adjustable fixtures, the kitchen redesigned with lowered counters so Lily could help with cooking. The nursery that Sarah had painted yellow, untouched for 3 years, was finally repainted in the shade of purple Lily had mentioned loving. Marcus hired an interior designer who specialized in accessible spaces, and together they created a room that was both beautiful and functional. Bookshelves at wheelchair height, an art station with everything Lily might need within easy reach, a window seat with cushions where she could read and look out at the garden Marcus was having redesigned to be fully wheelchair accessible. He bought a wheelchair accessible van, learning to operate the hydraulic lift and secure the wheelchair properly. He interviewed and hired a part-time aide recommended by Lily's physical therapist, someone who could help with medical care and also provide respite when Marcus needed it. He was building not just a house but a home, creating a space where Lily could thrive independently while knowing she was supported and loved. 4 months into the process, Mrs. Chen called Marcus into her office for a progress review. "Mr. Chen," she'd said, her professional demeanor softening slightly. "I've been doing this work for 15 years. I've seen a lot of prospective adoptive parents. Some are genuinely committed, some have good intentions but can't handle the reality, and some are driven by savior complexes that fall apart when the child doesn't respond with immediate gratitude. You're different. You're doing the work. You're showing up consistently. You're taking classes seriously, making real modifications to your life, asking the right questions. But I need to know, how are you actually doing? Not as a prospective parent, but as a person, because grief doesn't disappear just because you're focusing on something else. And I'm concerned that you might be using this adoption as a way to avoid processing your wife's death." Marcus had considered lying, giving the answer he thought Mrs. Chen wanted to hear, but something about her directness demanded honesty. "You're right," he'd admitted. "I am using this, at least partly, as a way to keep moving forward instead of drowning in grief. But here's the thing. My therapist says that's actually okay. She says there's no one right way to grieve, and if channeling my pain into something constructive, into giving Lily the family she deserves, helps me function, that's not necessarily unhealthy. Yes, I'm sad every day. Yes, I still cry sometimes when I think about Sarah. Yes, I'm terrified I'm going to fail at this parenting thing and hurt Lily in the process. But for the first time in 3 years, I'm also hopeful. I have a reason to get up in the morning beyond just going to work. I have someone who needs me to be better than I am. And maybe that's what grief recovery looks like for me, not getting over Sarah, because I'll never get over her, but learning to build something meaningful in her absence." Mrs. Chen had nodded slowly. "Okay, that's fair. Just promise me you'll keep going to therapy, because Lily needs you to be emotionally healthy, not just present. She needs a father who's dealt with his pain, not one who's running from it." "I promise," Marcus had said. "And I'll keep that promise the same way I keep showing up for Lily every day." Finally, after 6 months of evaluations and visits and paperwork and waiting, Mrs. Chen called Marcus with the news he'd been desperate to hear. The adoption was approved. A court date was scheduled for the following month. On that day, Marcus dressed in his best suit, the one Sarah had picked out, because it felt right to have her present in this moment somehow, and drove to the courthouse. Lily was already there with Mrs. Patterson, wearing a new dress that Marcus had bought her specifically for this occasion. Purple, of course, with small embroidered flowers, and she looked beautiful and terrified and hopeful all at once. They sat together in the courtroom waiting area, Lily's small hand gripping Marcus's tightly, both of them too nervous to say much. When they were called into the judge's chambers, Judge Martinez smiled warmly at them. She was an older woman, late 60s, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor that reminded Marcus a little of his mother. "Mr. Chen, Miss Thompson," Judge Martinez had said, "I've reviewed your case thoroughly. I've read the home study reports, the psychological evaluations, the letters of recommendation. I've seen the evidence of Mr. Chen's consistent presence in your life over these past 6 months, Lily, and I have to say, this is one of the most thoroughly prepared adoption cases I've handled in a long time. Marcus, you've done exceptional work making your home accessible and educating yourself about Lily's needs. Lily, I understand you've had some very difficult experiences in the past, and I want you to know that this adoption is permanent. Once I sign these papers, Mr. Chen becomes your father legally and forever. He can't send you back. You're his daughter. Do you understand what that means?" Lily had nodded, tears already streaming down her face. "It means I have a family," she'd whispered. It means I have a dad who actually wants me." "That's exactly right," Judge Martinez had said gently. "And do you want this adoption to happen, Lily? This is your choice, too." "Yes," Lily had said firmly, her voice stronger. "Yes, I want Marcus to be my dad." Judge Martinez had signed the papers with a flourish. And just like that, Lily Thompson became Lily Thompson Chen. Legally, irrevocably, permanently. Marcus Chen was a father. They'd stood on the courthouse steps afterward, Marcus kneeling beside Lily's wheelchair so they were at eye level, and he'd said the words he'd been waiting months to say, "Lily Thompson Chen, you are my daughter now, forever and always. Nothing can change that. You're stuck with me for the rest of our lives." Lily had launched herself into his arms, nearly knocking him over, and cried into his shoulder while repeating over and over, "I have a dad. I have a dad. I finally have a dad." And Marcus had held his daughter, feeling his frozen heart completely thaw, feeling something slot into place that had been missing since Sarah died. Not replacing Sarah, nothing could ever do that, but creating something new and precious and worth protecting with everything he had. The homecoming was everything Marcus had planned, and more. He'd timed it perfectly so they arrived at the house in late afternoon with good light. As they pulled into the driveway of the house Lily had only seen in photos, Marcus watched her face as she took in the ramps, the widened doorways, the accessible garden with raised beds she'd be able to tend herself. Inside, every detail had been carefully considered. Lily wheeled herself through room after room, touching things gently like she couldn't quite believe they were real, that this beautiful accessible space was actually her home. And then Marcus took her to the backyard, where a golden retriever puppy with a huge bow around her neck came bounding over. "You got me a dog," Lily had gasped, and Marcus had explained that this was Sunshine, trained as both a companion animal and a service dog who could help Lily with certain tasks. The puppy had immediately loved Lily, who dissolved into happy tears while Sunshine licked her face and wagged her tail enthusiastically. That evening, after Lily had explored every corner of her new home and played with Sunshine until they were both exhausted, Marcus tucked her into her new bed in her purple bedroom surrounded by bookshelves. He'd expected her to fall asleep immediately after such an emotional day. But instead, Lily had looked up at him with serious eyes and said the words he would remember for the rest of his life. "Daddy, I love you. I've been waiting my whole life for someone to choose me, really choose me, not because they felt sorry for me or thought it would be easy, but because they actually wanted me. I was so scared nobody ever would. I was scared I'd be in the system until I aged out and then be alone forever. But you found me. You kept showing up even when I was mean to you and tried to push you away. You made our house perfect for me. You got me Sunshine. You made me believe that maybe I do deserve to be loved, and I want you to know that I love you so much, and I'm going to keep loving you even when we fight, or I'm difficult, or things are hard. I'm never going to stop loving you. You're my dad now, and that means everything to me." Marcus had held Lily as she cried happy tears, and he'd cried too, whispering into her hair, "I love you too, sweetheart, so much more than I knew I could love anyone. You're not difficult or too much work or any of the things people told you. You're perfect exactly as you are. You're brave and brilliant and beautiful, and I'm the luckiest man in the world to be your dad. We're going to figure this out together, okay? Both of us learning as we go. And I promise you, with everything I am, that I will never give up on you. Never. You're my daughter forever." The first few weeks in their new home together were an adjustment for both of them. Lily had never lived in a house this nice, with her own room and all her own things. She kept asking Marcus if she was really allowed to use things, to get food from the kitchen when she was hungry, to go outside and play with Sunshine without asking permission. It broke Marcus's heart every time, this evidence of how little agency and ownership Lily had experienced in her 8 years. "This is your home," he told her repeatedly. "You don't need permission to live in it. If you're hungry, eat. If you want to read, read. If you want to paint, paint. This isn't a foster placement where you have to follow someone else's rules and stay small and quiet. This is your house. You belong here completely. It took weeks for Lily to truly internalize this. Marcus would find her hesitating in doorways, still programmed by years of being a guest in other people's homes. But gradually, tentatively, she began to relax. She started leaving her art supplies spread out on the dining table instead of meticulously packing them away. She started asking Marcus what he wanted for dinner instead of just accepting whatever he made. She started calling him Dad or Daddy instead of Marcus or Mr. Chen. Each small change was evidence of her growing sense of security, her willingness to believe this home was really hers. But there were also hard days when Lily woke up from nightmares screaming, convinced Marcus had changed his mind and was sending her back. Days when she tested him deliberately, breaking rules, being defiant, saying cruel things, trying to force him to give up on her so at least she'd have some control over the inevitable rejection. Days when the accumulated trauma of her 8 years would pour out in panic attacks or angry outbursts that had nothing to do with anything Marcus had done and everything to do with pain she'd been carrying alone for too long. Marcus learned to weather these storms. When Lily screamed that she hated him, he stayed calm and told her that was okay. He loved her anyway. When she broke something in anger, he helped her clean it up and talked about better ways to handle frustration. When she had nightmares, he sat with her until she fell back asleep, reminding her quietly that this was her home. He was her dad. Nothing would change that. Not ever. He consulted regularly with a child psychologist who specialized in adoption trauma, learning strategies for helping Lily process her grief and fear. He joined a support group for single adoptive parents where he could share the challenges without judgment and learn from others who'd walked this path before. He cut his work hours at Chen Industries dramatically, delegating more to his executive team and attending fewer board meetings. His company could survive without his constant micromanagement. Lily needed him present. That was more important than any business decision. 6 months into their life together, Marcus and Lily had settled into routines that felt almost normal. Breakfast together before Marcus took Lily to school, a private school with excellent accessibility accommodations and an inclusive special education program. Afternoons when Lily came home and did homework at the kitchen table while Marcus worked from his home office nearby. Dinners they cooked together. Marcus learning to prepare meals at Lily's wheelchair height so she could help chop vegetables and stir pots and feel like a real contributor. Evenings, reading together or watching movies or working on art projects, sunshine sprawled across both their laps. Marcus learned Lily's moods and needs, how she got quiet when she was overwhelmed and needed space versus when she was sad and needed closeness. How physical therapy days left her exhausted and sometimes in pain, requiring extra gentleness and care. How being in public sometimes triggered anxiety because people stared at her wheelchair or spoke to Marcus about her instead of to her directly. He learned to navigate these moments, to advocate for Lily while also teaching her to advocate for herself, to find the balance between protecting her and letting her develop independence and resilience. And Lily, for her part, began to truly bloom. With consistent love and security, her personality emerged fully. She was wickedly funny with a dry sense of humor that caught Marcus off guard and made him laugh in ways he hadn't since Sarah died. She was fiercely independent, insisting on doing as much as she could for herself even when accepting help would be easier. She was deeply empathetic, noticing when Marcus had hard days and offering comfort in her own 8-year-old way, a drawing she'd made for him, a joke to lighten the mood, simply sitting quietly beside him while he processed his grief. On Lily's 9th birthday, exactly 1 year after her adoption was finalized, Marcus threw her the birthday party she'd never had. He invited her friends from school and from her physical therapy group, along with the families Marcus had met through the adoptive parent support group. He decorated their house with purple and gold, Lily's favorite colors, and hired a face painter and a balloon artist. He spent an entire day baking a 3-layer cake from scratch, following a recipe Sarah had loved. And if he cried a little while measuring flour and thinking about the family he'd wanted to build with Sarah, well, that was between him and the kitchen. The party was loud and chaotic and perfect. Kids everywhere, sunshine racing around, barking excitedly, parents chatting and laughing, Lily absolutely radiant in the center of it all, wearing a birthday crown and a dress that Marcus had let her pick out herself. When it came time to blow out the candles, everyone sang happy birthday, and Lily closed her eyes to make a wish, and Marcus found himself hoping desperately that whatever she wished for would come true. Later, after everyone had gone home and Lily was getting ready for bed, she told Marcus what she'd wished for. "I wished that this feeling loved and safe and like I belong, would last forever," she said simply. "I wished that even when I'm grown up, I'll remember how it feels to have a family who chose me." Marcus had pulled her into a hug. "That wish is already true, sweetheart. This feeling isn't going anywhere. You're my daughter. This is your family. Forever means forever." That night, after Lily was asleep, Marcus sat in his study and pulled out the photo of Sarah that he kept on his desk. He talked to her sometimes still, needing to share important moments with the woman who would have loved experiencing them with him. "I did it," he told her picture. "We have a daughter. Her name is Lily. She's brave and brilliant and beautiful, and she's been through so much, but she's still so full of hope and love. I wish you could have met her. I wish you could see the art she makes and hear the jokes she tells and watch how determined she is to do everything herself even when it's hard. She would have adored you. You would have taught her about books and social justice and how to stand up for herself. You would have been such an amazing mother to her." Marcus wiped tears from his face. "Thank you for making me promise to keep living. Thank you for believing in adoption even when we couldn't have biological children. Thank you for starting this dream that I'm getting to finish. Lily doesn't replace you, nothing could ever replace you, but she's given me a reason to be a better person, to show up, to love again, even though loving means risking loss. I'm doing my best to be the father she deserves. I hope I'm doing okay. I think you'd be proud of me. At least, I hope you would be." The years passed, and Lily grew from a child into a young woman, and through it all, Marcus was there. He attended every school event, every physical therapy session, every art show where Lily's work was displayed. He learned to navigate the medical system, advocating fiercely when doctors tried to talk over Lily or make assumptions about her capabilities based on her wheelchair. He helped her through the awkward years of middle school when kids could be cruel, and Lily came home crying because someone had mocked her disability. He taught her that her worth had nothing to do with what her legs could do, and everything to do with who she was as a person. When Lily was 13 and started asking questions about dating and relationships, terrified that nobody would ever want to date someone in a wheelchair, Marcus shared stories about how he'd worried Sarah wouldn't want to date him because he was so driven and workaholic and emotionally guarded. "Love isn't about being perfect," he told Lily. "It's about finding someone who sees all of you, the good parts and the challenging parts, and chooses you anyway. Someone worth being with won't see your wheelchair as a problem. They'll see it as just one fact about you among hundreds of other more important facts. And if someone can't see past the wheelchair to the extraordinary person using it, they don't deserve you." By the time Lily reached high school, she'd become a force. She was captain of the adaptive sports team, president of the art club, and an outspoken advocate for disability rights. She gave talks at middle schools about inclusion and wrote op-eds for the local newspaper about accessibility and representation. She was everything Sarah would have wanted her to be: passionate, articulate, unwilling to accept that disability meant diminishment. Marcus watched his daughter become this incredible young woman and felt pride so intense it was almost painful. When college application time came around, Lily applied to top art schools across the country. She got into several, but her dream school was the Rhode Island School of Design, one of the most prestigious art programs in the world. The day her acceptance letter arrived, she wheeled into Marcus's office, waving the envelope, crying happy tears. I got in. Dad, I actually got in. They want me. Marcus had hugged her tight, thrilled for her success and terrified about her leaving. She'd be 3,000 miles away. What if she needed him? What if someone was unkind about her wheelchair? What if she struggled and he wasn't there to help? But he couldn't let his fear limit her possibilities, so he smiled and told her how proud he was and helped her plan for this next chapter. The summer before Lily left for college, they took a trip together, just the two of them and Sunshine, to visit colleges along the East Coast and then spend a week at an accessible beach house in Maine. It was their last extended time together before Lily's independence, and both of them treated it as precious. They talked about everything: Marcus's childhood and his parents, sacrifices, Sarah and the family they'd planned to build, Lily's memories of her biological parents and the accident that changed her life, the years in foster care and group homes, the night they'd met at the charity gala. "We saved each other, didn't we?" Lily said one evening as they sat on the beach watching the sunset, Sunshine asleep between them. "You needed someone to love, and I needed someone to love me. And we found each other at exactly the right time. I think Mom sent me to you," Marcus said quietly. "I think she knew I was drowning, and she sent me the one person who could teach me how to swim again." Lily leaned her head against his shoulder. "I'm glad she did. I'm glad you said yes when she sent me. I'm glad you were brave enough to choose me." When Marcus dropped Lily off at RISD that fall, he cried the entire 3-hour drive home. The house felt unbearably empty without her energy filling it. Sunshine moped around looking for Lily. Marcus threw himself into work for the first time in years, needing the distraction. But Lily called him every few days. FaceTime sessions where she showed him her latest projects and talked about her professors and classmates. She was thriving, making friends, pushing her artistic boundaries, learning and growing in exactly the ways college was supposed to enable. And she always ended every call the same way: "Love you, Dad. Love you too, sweetheart." Marcus would respond, every single time. By Lily's junior year, she was being featured in student art shows and catching the attention of galleries. Her work, powerful pieces exploring disability, identity, and what it meant to navigate the world in a body that didn't match what society expected, resonated with people. A gallery in Providence gave her a solo show, then a gallery in Boston, then one in New York. By the time she graduated, Lily Thompson Chen was a rising star in the contemporary art world. She was also in love. His name was David, and he was a photographer she'd met in a collaborative art class. When Lily brought him home to meet Marcus during winter break of her senior year, Marcus had watched carefully, protective dad instincts on high alert. But David was kind and genuine and clearly completely smitten with Lily. More importantly, he treated her wheelchair as an absolute non-issue, just a tool she used to get around, no different from his camera being a tool he used to make art. Within the first hour, Marcus could see that David saw Lily the way Marcus did, as an extraordinary person who happened to use a wheelchair, not as a wheelchair user who happened to be a person. That evening, after David had gone back to his hotel, Lily had asked Marcus, "So what do you think? Do you like him?" Marcus had smiled. "I think he's very good to you. I think he sees you for who you are. I think if you love him and he loves you, that's all that matters. And just for the record, if he ever hurts you, I have $4 billion and excellent lawyers." Lily had laughed and hugged him. "Thank you for not being a weird, overprotective dad. Thank you for trusting me to make good choices. I learned from the best." When Lily and David got married 3 years later in a garden ceremony under an arch covered in purple flowers with Sunshine as the ring bearer and Marcus walking Lily down the aisle in her beautifully decorated wheelchair, Marcus cried through the entire ceremony, cried for joy that his daughter had found someone who loved her completely, cried because Sarah wasn't there to see this moment she would have treasured, cried because the scared 8-year-old girl he'd met in a corner at a charity gala had grown into this confident, radiant, beloved woman. In his toast at the reception, Marcus told the story of meeting Lily. She told me that night that money was easier than love. She was right. Money doesn't require vulnerability or risk or courage. Love requires all of those things. And I'm so grateful I was brave enough to choose love, because it gave me Lily, the greatest gift of my life. And David, you're getting someone extraordinary. Take care of her, love her well, show up for her the way I've tried to show up, and welcome to our family. A year later, Lily and David had a daughter. They named her Sarah, after the grandmother she'd never meet. And when Marcus held his granddaughter for the first time, he felt the circle close in the most perfect way. This tiny person, named for the woman he'd lost, held by the daughter he'd found, represented everything good that had come from choosing love over fear, connection over safety, hope over despair. He told little Sarah about both the women she was named for, about Sarah Chen, who'd believed in adoption and family and giving every child a chance, and about Sarah's namesake, Lily, who'd taught him what it meant to truly be a father. You're named for two extraordinary women, he told the baby. You have a legacy of love and courage and refusing to give up even when things are impossibly hard. That's who you come from. That's who you'll become. As Marcus got older, his health began to decline gradually. Nothing catastrophic, just the slow accumulation of years and stress and the way bodies eventually wear down. Lily noticed before he did, saw him moving more slowly, tiring more easily, struggling with tasks that used to be simple. And without any discussion or fanfare, she simply stepped in to help. The daughter he'd cared for became the caregiver, and she did it with such grace and love that Marcus was humbled. When he tried to apologize for being a burden, Lily had stopped him immediately. Don't you dare apologize for needing help. You taught me that needing help doesn't make you less valuable or worthy. You taught me that love means showing up even when it's hard. Now let me show up for you the way you showed up for me. This isn't a burden. This is family. One evening, when Marcus was 81 years old, and Lily was 44, and little Sarah had grown into a talented teenager, Marcus and Lily sat together in the garden he'd redesigned 36 years ago to be accessible for a scared 8-year-old girl. Marcus was tired in a way that signaled his time was running short. But his mind was clear and his heart was full. Do you remember that first night at the gala? He asked Lily. When you told me money was easier than love. Lily smiled, her eyes bright with unshed tears. I was such a cynical kid, but I was right, wasn't I? Completely right, Marcus agreed. Money is infinitely easier than love, but love is what makes life worth living. Love is what saved us both. Love is what mattered in all of this. I love you, Dad, Lily said, her voice breaking. You changed my life. You saw worth in me when nobody else did. You kept every promise you ever made to me. You taught me what family means. Thank you for choosing me. Thank you for being my father. Thank you for everything. Marcus squeezed his daughter's hand with what strength he had left. I love you too, Lily. You are my greatest accomplishment, my deepest joy, my most important legacy. Not the company or the money or any of it. You. The family we built. The love we chose to give each other. That's what mattered. That's what will always matter. Marcus Chen died peacefully that night, Lily holding his hand, sunshine lying at his feet, surrounded by everyone he'd loved. And though the grief was profound, Lily found comfort in knowing that her father had lived fully, loved completely, and built something beautiful from the ashes of his loss. He'd chosen her when nobody else would. He'd shown up every day. He'd proved that family isn't about biology or perfection or conventional paths. It's about choice, commitment, and the courage to keep loving even when loving means risking your heart. This is their story. A story about a billionaire who adopted a girl in a wheelchair nobody wanted. About what she whispered that changed his life forever. About broken people healing each other through the simple act of showing up. About a family built not on biology, but on daily choices to stay, to love, to be present even when it's hard. About worth that has nothing to do with what our bodies can do and everything to do with who we choose to be and who we choose to love. If this story touched your heart, if you believe every child deserves to be chosen, that family is built through commitment, not genetics, that disability doesn't diminish worth, that broken people can create beautiful lives together, then share this story. Let it remind us all that the people society overlooks are often the most extraordinary souls we'll ever know, and that sometimes the greatest act of courage is choosing to love when you're terrified of being hurt again. But that courage, that choice, that love, that's what makes us human. That's what saves us. That's what matters most. Years after Marcus's death, Lily continued his legacy in ways that would have made him proud. The Chen Foundation, which she renamed to honor both Marcus and Sarah, provided full scholarships for children with disabilities to attend college. She spoke at conferences around the world about adoption, disability rights, and the power of chosen family. Her art continued to evolve, each piece exploring deeper questions about identity, belonging, and what it means to be seen and valued in a world that often overlooks those who are different. She taught her daughter Sarah everything Marcus had taught her, that worth comes from character, not ability, that family is built through daily choices to love, that showing up matters more than being perfect. And Sarah, in turn, grew up understanding that her grandmother and grandfather, both named Sarah and Marcus, had left her a legacy of courage, compassion, and the unshakable belief that love is always worth the risk. On the 15th anniversary of Marcus's death, Lily returned to the Grand Plaza Hotel where she and Marcus had first met. The Children's Hope Foundation still held their annual gala there, and this year Lily had been asked to give the keynote speech. She stood at the same podium where Marcus had stood 36 years earlier and told their story to a room full of wealthy donors and foster children waiting for families. She told them about being 8 years old and invisible, about a billionaire who knelt beside her wheelchair and saw her worth when nobody else did, about first words whispered in a purple bedroom that became a promise kept across decades. And she told them the most important truth she'd learned. Sometimes the people we're meant to find are waiting in the places we're most afraid to look. Sometimes the families we build are stronger than the ones we're born into. Sometimes choosing to love when you're terrified is the bravest thing you'll ever do. And sometimes, just sometimes, broken people really can heal each other and build something beautiful that lasts long after they're gone. If you believe in the power of chosen family, in second chances, in the extraordinary courage of vulnerable hearts choosing to risk love one more time, then take this story with you. Share it with someone who needs to know they're worthy of being chosen. Remember it when you're tempted to overlook someone because they don't fit your expectations. Let it remind you that the most meaningful connections often come from the most unexpected places, and that showing up consistently, imperfectly, lovingly, is the greatest gift we can give each other. Marcus and Lily's story isn't just about adoption or disability or grief. It's about what happens when broken people stop hiding and start hoping, when love wins over fear, when someone sees you, really, truly sees you, and decides you're worth fighting for. That's what changes lives. That's what builds families. That's what makes the world a little less lonely and a lot more beautiful. Thank you for being part of this journey. Thank you for believing in love that transforms, courage that persists, and hope that refuses to die. Until next time, keep choosing love, keep showing up, keep being brave enough to let yourself be seen and to really see others. That's how we save each other. That's how we save ourselves.